Back when I was a dear sweet little bab of 13 years, my papa purchased me Punch-Out for the Wii on the Wii U Virtual Console. I was not very good at it, but I was enamored by the pizzazz and how involved the gameplay was compared to the type of stuff I was playing before. You know, the types of games for the Wii that were just like hold left and jump. It was fun for quite a while, and me and my siblings played it for a hell of a long time. I remember my younger brother just recently trying to get through the title defense matches. And now, a decade after I first played any Punch-Out game, I've gained quite the following from just talking about it online and creating art centered around that universe. And all of a sudden, I hear this commotion about how there might not be another game in the series ever again. What the hell has been going on? Hello, I am Greavy. Nah, I'm just joshing you, but you heard the preamble already. There's been very mild uproar about some anecdotes from developers of the Punch-Out Wii game, Next Level Games, who are also responsible for two of the best animated Mario games of the last decade. Anyways, one of them said something in a faux interview, and it seems like it got blown out of proportion, and then was swiftly followed by a swarm of articles overcorrecting for it, perhaps giving people too much hope for a Punch-Out sequel. I'm just here to cut through the noise and get to the bottom of what's really going on, comparing what different people had to say, and asking the titular question: is a Punch-Out sequel even possible anymore? And an even more important question: who says titular anymore? Now first, let me give this initial article some context. Apparently some guy from some video game news site, the details aren't super important, but the point is, the guy talked to a developer at Next Level Games who said some interesting things over a drink regarding the Punch-Out game they developed. The story I was told, and bear in mind this could just be the perspective of one person and no one else, was that there was significantly more backlash against the characters of the Wii game than they expected. And this team spent a lot of time assuring Nintendo that they weren't leaning into bad stereotypes that would get called out this time. So everyone just kind of furrowed their brow and called it done. Especially since other games from that team had much, much higher sales potential. Now, the article goes into some further detail in the whole thing, regarding the stereotypical nature of the characters in the game, and how from the devs' response that Nintendo is okay with just letting Punch-Out die altogether, and I can sort of see where Nintendo's coming from with the former statement, if this article has any truth to it. In my opinion, I'm more surprised that we even got a new Punch-Out game in the 21st century. It really seems like something that only could have been made in the 20th century, what with every opponent being wildly stereotypical. I just feel like for such a classic Nintendo franchise, it would make more sense to try and change the characters from being racial stereotypes into, I don't know, anything else? Granted, I don't know if there's an easy, suitable replacement for the original concept, but surely there's something, right? I feel like Punch-Out is worth reworking in the spirit of preserving it by making more games. Now, this is all just in reaction to Nintendo's and the public's supposed perception of the characters of the game in the article. I personally don't see much issue with the Boxers, but then again, I'm just one goose. Our next article comes from less than a week later, quickly shutting down the claims from the last article, including claims from another anonymous developer from Next Level Games. That'll make sense once we read through it, don't worry. From the sound of the article, it seems like there may have been some skepticism from Nintendo, and a long process of convincing them to believe otherwise from Next Level Games, that the Boxers' portrayal in Punch-Out were not overtly offensive. And I'm not sure if I can certainly say there was significant backlash. I was 7 years old at the time of the game's release, and I certainly wasn't on the internet. But going off of this article, it doesn't seem like it was that big a deal to anyone other than Nintendo. Quote, "None of the anonymous developers interviewed could recall any kind of backlash over the game's characters, with one claiming that they don't believe that's the reason behind the lack of another Punch-Out game." End quote. Now, as someone who was a child at the time, and with Punch-Out Wii being such a long time ago by internet standards, I might have to take their word for it. As for the real reason, it seems that Punch-Out has been dead in the water for a different reason. A more Nintendo-y reason. Supposedly the same reason they haven't done another F-Zero game, as far as I'm aware. And knowing that, as well as how long it's been since the last F-Zero game, not counting F-Zero 99, any hopes for a sequel may be shaky. To quote the second article again, "Rather than backlash over stereotypes or dodgy cultural representation, one developer at Next Level Games close to development believes it's because there haven't been any fresh or innovative ideas to justify another Punch-Out game, claiming that Nintendo would need to be presented with a new gameplay hook for one to be made." And knowing as much as I do about Nintendo, yeah, that tracks. If they were to make a Punch-Out game on the Switch that used motion controls, it wouldn't be particularly different from the last game. An innovation on the Punch-Out style actually came alongside the reveal of the Switch. Of course, I'm referencing ARMS. But now that ARMS is done and made, sure, there's a lot of inspiration to be taken from that game, but I wouldn't want a new Punch-Out game to just be a dialed-back version of ARMS. To make a long story short, that's supposedly the real reason for the lack of a sequel.
Pardon my cut-in, sir, but I think this analysis has been overlooking something within the broader cultural shifts underlying the franchise as a whole.
Oh yeah? What's that?
Well, how about the general decline of boxing in the sports world in general? Since about the 1990s, sports analysts have noted boxing's increasing obscurity in light of changing demographic market relations, organizational issues, oversaturation of unserious meme title fights, and a move amongst combat sports fans towards highly successful emergent competition like mixed martial arts. Logistical issues regarding the world governing bodies of boxing even led to initial uncertainty over the inclusion of boxing in the upcoming 2028 Olympics.
Wow, really? I mean, I knew things were pretty dire for boxing these days, but I didn't think it was that bad. Though I guess it all makes sense. Plus, there's the fact that there aren't really any major players on the same level as Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali these days. And no Rocky movies.
I mean, there are still Rocky movies, and you do have people like Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather, but probably not with the same amount of cultural power that Muhammad Ali or Tyson had back in the day. It seems like the 80s and 90s may have been the last great decades for boxing as a whole.
True. Boxing just isn't as hot of a sport as it was last century. Now people are going gaga for football, the other football, tennis, bowling, curling? I know me and Bonnie both would prefer if hockey became the next big thing. Regardless, boxing just isn't on the same level as it used to be, and I think that's one of the big reasons we haven't gotten another Punch-Out game. Boxing just isn't the most anymore. Now then, looking at the statements placed before us, it begs the question, is another Punch-Out game possible? Well, obviously it's possible for a video game to be made, but I'm unsure if they would actually do it. There are a few factors that could play into the odds of a sequel happening or not. Firstly, there's the factor of if Nintendo thinks it's something worth sinking money into. This isn't the 2010s Nintendo anymore. No more Year of Luigis or Amiibo festivals. They don't do much risky, funny business these days. If they don't think a new Punch-Out game would be something fresh and engaging, they probably wouldn't do it. Speaking of that thing I just said a second ago, that's another factor. Innovation. What they do to spice up the gameplay will heavily impact whether or not another sequel is possible. No innovation means no new game. Because if it doesn't have weird stuff in it, Nintendo doesn't want it. Next there is, funnily enough, the court of public opinion. Depending on how accepting the public is to another boxing game where you fight stereotypes from all around the world, the game might not get a fighting chance at existence, no pun intended. If they scrapped the original boxers to make entirely new ones that aren't based on where they came from, then that might cause some trouble in thinking up an alternative to what sort of wacky characteristics each boxer would pull from. The Wii game actually contains a perfect example of how they could change it. They only add one new character, Disco Kid, and he just really likes dancing. Maybe if you make more characters like him, you could have more suitable stand-ins for the original cast. Just don't make them as bad as someone like Soda Popinski. People seem to cite him as one of the more offensive boxers, alongside Great Tiger. It is my understanding that people aren't too fond of racism, but to be honest, oh my god, that's a crazy clip out of context. If they do the same thing they did in Punch-Out Wii for the next game, I'd say it has a pretty decent chance, because Next Level Games handled the WVBA boxers about as well as you possibly could have. I mean, in the arcade game, his name was Vodka Drunkinski. That's pretty bad. And in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, most of the boxers just spouted stereotypical gibberish. Piston Hondo just screamed random Japanese, for God's sake. But in Punch-Out Wii, every character speaks in their native language fluently. And while they're still each very clearly exaggerations of their cultures, they don't feel as offensive as the older iterations of these characters. They feel just the slightest bit more respectful, if that accounts for anything. But to be fair, the existence of the 2009 game came down to one thing: the studio. If Next Level Games hadn't fought so hard to convince Nintendo to let them keep the boxers as they are, we might have ended up with a very different game than the one we got in 2009. Not to mention the level of quality in the animation that Next Level Games is so spectacular at delivering consistently. Without Next Level Games as the devs for that game, I fear this hypothetical sequel may not live up to the fan expectations. But hey, after 16 years of waiting and festering in the shadows, I don't think Punch-Out fans would be pleased with much of anything that a sequel would bring if it strayed from the Wii game's formula. And with that train of thought, I gotta think to myself, do we actually need another Punch-Out game? Sure, we could get something new with these characters and this gameplay style again, but I feel like the 2009 game was a pretty definitive way of doing that formula. And if this hypothetical new game had a new mechanic to change up the formula, I feel like a lot of Punch-Out fans wouldn't be too happy with the status quo being shaken. So honestly, maybe it's better we don't get a new game? Then again, I'd love to see a version of Punch-Out Wii with modern-day hardware and animation on the same tier as Next Level Games' more recent outings, so maybe I'm just a big fool who doesn't know any better. So, if I had to come to a conclusion on if another Punch-Out game is gonna happen, I'd say maybe, but I wouldn't hold out for it. I think they would absolutely need to test the waters first by doing like a re-release or a deluxe edition of Punch-Out for the Wii to see if people are still interested in the series. Which, going off of the views I get from anything Punch-Out related, people are very much interested still. Then, depending on the sales of the re-release, they could make another game to hold us over for another 15 or more years. Suffice to say, you shouldn't expect anything new or groundbreaking from Little Mac's universe for a while. Maybe get excited for a Punch-Out port of some kind, but personally, I'm not getting my hopes up for another new Punch-Out game. Although I will say, if one was announced, I would be very excited, and there wouldn't be a single person on YouTube who would be talking about it more than me. That's a fucking guarantee. Any gonk, that's more than enough out of me. I've filled my Punch-Out quota for the month, so I shall now go into hiding until I need to feed the Punch-Out beast again. By the way, if you were at all curious as to how I would port Punch-Out Wii to the Switch, or I guess now the Switch 2, take a look at this old-ass video I made for exactly that. For now, though, please take a look at some fan art while I take care of some housekeeping, okay? If you didn't know, I've got a second channel now. It's called GOOSE's Golden Gallery, and it'll be where I post all my music, art, outtakes, and other silly stuff. I'm just mentioning it at the end of videos because it only has like 33 subscribers right now, so I figure most people don't know about it. The link to that will be in the description, right alongside my Blue Sky, my Newgrounds, and my TikTok. I post extraordinarily funny things and other stuff, like my art and music and other shit. Worst case scenario, you don't follow me, and in that case, I will, eat a spoon, so no biggie. I also have a Discord server, the Honk House. That's where me, my friends, and all my viewers hang out and talk, share art, roleplay in the spam chat, and occasionally have game nights and whatnot. It's great. Also, hey, how about you become a headliner? That's what I call channel members. You get access to emotes on streams, first dibs on watching new videos, votes to decide on the priority of specific uploads, a private channel in the Discord server, your name in the credits of videos, as well as a little drawing alongside your name in the credits. To get that doodle, though, you'll have to join the Discord server to let me know how you'd like me to draw your head. Also, feel free to commission me for art or music. I know there are some Punch-Out themes you guys want me to make, and honestly, I only have like 2 or 3 left I'm going to make ever. So if you want more Punch-Out themes, you're gonna have to pay for them. It's mostly just to support me. I've been pretty short on money since I've had to get my car fixed, and Goober's got some vet bills, so every little bit helps, you know? Finally, if you have any fan art of me you'd like to share, tag me in it on social media or post it in the channel of my Discord server, and I'll put it at the end of videos, with credit, of course. Okay, that's everything from me today. My name is Goose. I thank you very much for watching. And, you guys want to see my slide whistle? Okay, bye!